My name is Robert Feeney, and I'm portraying Dr. Leitner, Edward Frederick Leitner. He was a military surgeon, a volunteer surgeon who came up the Loxahatchee along with Lieutenant Powell during the first battle of the Loxahatchee. And as a naval surgeon, which is what I'm portraying today, these are the type of instruments that they probably would have brought with them during the battle or had access to, and the type of medical technology they would have been using. Most of the instruments were for capital operations, so removing bullets, amputating limbs. They would be suturing limbs from wounds. Some of the medicines that they would have used during this time represent heroic medicine. That is the type of medicine that was still in use in the 1830s, had been handed down from the Founding Fathers, the time of the Revolutionary War. So that was still the current medical theory. And that was that if you were sick, it was due to an imbalance of humors in the body. So when you went for medical treatment, the idea was to balance out those humors. So they would bleed you, they would blister you, they would purge you in an attempt to do that. Some of the medicines they used, today known as heroic medicines, things like opium. This would be a tincture of opium. This was used for pain. It's called laudanum. It's opium refined and distilled with alcoholic spirits. They use things like mercury, heavy metals, which today, of course, we know are deadly poisons, but they were administered back then for a whole host of reasons. And like I said before, the instruments that they used were mostly for amputations or battlefield surgery. This is called a capital saw. This was used for sawing off, of course, arms and legs, bone saw. Smaller saw, metacarpal saw for fingers and toes. General amputating knife, tourniquet to control bleeding, forceps that they might use to remove a ball. This is the type of bullet that they would have been using. This is a 69 caliber lead musket ball. It's very soft, so if this was fired and it hit someone, if it hit a bone, it would shatter the bone. The bullet itself would mushroom out, flatten against the bone, and it might also bounce around if it was an abdominal injury. So they would have to, of course, amputate the limb if the limb was shattered, hence the bone saws. Some of the other instruments they had, this is for cranial surgery, so this is for drilling holes in the skull. A lot of times there would be depressed fractures of the skull, where the plates of the skull are pressing in on the brain, causing it to swell. So they would use this to drill away pieces of the skull and allow the swelling to go down. They still use these today in modern medicine, but they're motorized. Looks like a little Dremel tool. This is a bone tongue depressor that they would use. Some syringes here. This is an irrigating syringe made of pewter. A tooth key. If a tooth was exceptionally rotted, decayed, they would hook this around the tooth and they would use it to pry out the tooth. And speaking of dental care, this is the type of toothbrush they would have used. They find a number of these at archaeological sites where the soldiers camped. It's a bone toothbrush, and the bristles are made from pig hair. Some bloodletting instruments. This is called a fleam, different size blades that they would use for bleeding for different areas of the body, and a smaller lancet. This is called a thumb lancet. It was often used for different areas. For example, if you had a headache, you went to the surgeon, he would bleed you from your temples and allow your blood pressure to be drawn down, and your headache would go away. So that just kind of gives you an overview of the type of tools and medical instruments and medicines that they would have had access to.